businesses across the globe are cautiously transitioning into various phases of their return to office plans and looking at their operating models following the COVID-19 lockdown. Many also believe this to be the right moment to consider how they can prepare and indeed equip their organisation and employees with the knowledge and tools to cope with the inevitable next upheaval.
One such large institution is State Street, and the company has discovered that the key to business resilience is operational agility. Lou Maiuri, as I got it wrong before, is Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at State Street Corporation. And he joins us now. Good evening to you, Lou, or shall I say good afternoon where you are over in Boston. Now, if I might start by addressing what else but the COVID pandemic. Talk us through some of the fundamental challenges that you're seeing in firms and clients grappling with over the back of the volatility caused by COVID.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And thanks for having me. Look, I would say, first of all, clients, asset managers were under pressure before COVID. There was a lot of pressure on their business models with respect to the shift from active investing to passive investing. There was a low volatility environment, and all of that sort of put downward pressure on their business models. And as you said earlier this year, we all went through the healthcare crisis and subsequently the financial crisis that just put more downward pressure on them. And I would add sort of the whole business continuity pressures that are there, how they can think from working from home, how they think about protecting their cyber and information delivery, if you will, risk that's out there. So it's been a real challenge on clients. It's been a mixed bag, if you will. Some have really done really well, and some, I think, probably have struggled through this time.
Well, Lou, that leads to the bigger question about how investment managers themselves are reacting to the crisis. And specifically, are you seeing industry consolidation, provider consolidation? Where is it happening? Yeah.
So I'd say it's a few things happening here. You're definitely seeing some mergers and acquisition from a company perspective, but we're seeing here at State Street, being the large provider that we are, we're seeing product consolidation. A lot of our clients are consolidating their products, reducing that set there. They're launching new products that are, I would say, more complex in nature. These are just themes I'm giving you. We're seeing a trend towards private markets, private equity, private credit, real estate, infrastructure. And the last thing I would say is that our customers are pivoting to use separately managed accounts. How can they take their investment ideas and scale them down market to a lower investor base, if you will. So those are some of the themes that we see, and it's forcing everyone to adapt and adjust to those dynamics.
Speaking of adaptation, do you see the industry running into a situation where consolidation could result in concentration risk, i.e. too many single points of failure?
Yeah, I think my overall answer is no. I think when you look at asset managers, clearly, we're one of them. There's the top three that are at the top that occupy a lot of the if you will, inflows and sort of market share. I still think there's a need for alpha generation. I think there's a need for skilled, active investors. And so the question is how they operate going forward. When I think about the individuals that support them, like ourselves at State Street, I think that the good news is we're highly regulated. The regulators are ensuring that there's not too much concentration risk. I would say during the pandemic, the healthcare crisis, the financial stress, that all that regulation with respect to balance sheets and interconnectivity of systemically important firms worked. And so the good news is I'm not worried about the infrastructure that supports asset management. I still believe there's a lot of room for skilled providers. And of course, on the beta side, if you will, ETFs and passive investment, there's some really nice innovation happening there that's continuing to grow. So,
can we talk a bit about State Shift's own operational agility? Because you have to ask yourself how an organisation with a global operating model and indeed multiple processing hubs can be considered operationally agile.
Yeah. So I looked up the definition to make sure I understood what we were talking about. And so I'll just read it here. It's basically an organization's ability to renew itself, adapt, change quickly, and succeed in a rapidly changing, ambiguous, turbulent environment. And that describes my life and during the pandemic, right? All of that was true. We were all going through a very difficult time. And for State Street, by the way, it began in January. We have over 4,000 colleagues in China. So we've been navigating, adapting during this change environment. And it was, in hindsight, it was wonderful to see. It's a little difficult as you go through these things because it was completely unknown. There was no handbook. There was no consultant that you could have called up to say, how do we navigate? So I would say I can speak for State Street, we were truly being agile during this time, and we're still in it. We're still, as we are adjusting now to, we had 48,000 people go home. We've returned about 30% of our workforce, and now we're thinking about the workforce of the future. What does the future look like for us so we can continually adapt and change to these unknown environments?
Sticking with the now, how are you able to leverage your local and global footprint during this pandemic?
Yeah, that was a real strength of ours. And as you can imagine, if it started for us in China supporting our Asia Pac clients, we had to take care of our employees first and foremost in January and February, if you will, in the Asia Pac region. So we were shifting work through our operating model to our hubs in India and Europe and here in the US. And then as the crisis moved, if you will, if you just follow the timeline, as March hit us here in Europe and in the US, we were bringing employees back into the office, believe it or not, in China, and then shifting work around the planet. So that global operating model, those hubs, were really playing an incredible role when I think about organizational agility and supporting all the disruption was going on. As you can imagine, different countries were in a different state of sending people home. There was different interpretation as to financial firms that were deemed to be critical functions. And so you can imagine certain countries designated us as a critical function and we could keep critical staff in place, and others did not. So that global model was fully active and shifting, and that was sometimes on a daily basis or weekly basis.
But during the crisis, was there ever a downside to your size and scale?
I actually don't think so. In fact, saying this, it's probably being a global significant investment firm that we are and being highly regulated, I think that really did benefit us, right? So we think about concentration risk. By the way, we just think about liquidity risk and balance. That's another element, by the way, of organizational agility. I should mention that here in the United States, there are 6 Fed programs that have been stood up to support the stress in the market. And State Street is a participant in 5 of the 6. And a lot of that was happening real time with our regulators. So that's another form of adapting and changing and supporting the marketplace. So I think our size definitely helped us. I think the strength of our balance sheet, I think regulation that in 2008 that was put in place to deal with the problems there, I think you found that banks actually were part of the solution in this particular crisis as opposed to the problem in 2008. So, and I think I could tell you for firms that I was working with in partnership with our other competitors that are GSIFIs, we were able to navigate this. And I think firms that were a little smaller, just when I think about business continuity, we were prepared to have most of our people working from home. Now, nobody could prepare for everybody working from home around the world, but I will tell you, we were more prepared. We had practiced that in different parts of the world. So I'd say it was actually an advantage to be larger and highly regulated.
Okay, well, look, keep on doing what you're doing, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Lou Maiuri. Thank you so much. That was Lou Maiuri, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at State Street Corporation.